Yeah, we did. We saw a real increase in people, of clients, asking questions, and really wanting to be a lot more engaged in how their products were being made and the processes involved. So we actually found ourselves in a situation where we were educating our clients a lot, which was
Okay.
quite interesting, actually.
Yeah, so your roles kind of slightly changed from when you started the business.
Yeah, and it's nice. It's really nice to have people kind of interested in what you do.
Yeah. And so then your business has kind of developed in a different way now. So now you're doing more of a design aspect.
Yeah, we've moved kind of very far away from fashion. It felt like a very natural progression, actually, because I think the fashion industry in London, I mean, one of our reasons, I think, for success was that we were very local to quite a thriving London-centric fashion industry. That I think for various reasons struggled. Like over the past.
Does it make it mean that you had a limited client base? Was that a struggle? Because you only have, I mean, obviously things are always changing in London and fashion, and people are coming and going in and out of the fashion industry. But but like, I still think there is a limit. There's not going to be, you know what I mean? There's not going to be, say you were projecting like worldwide or countrywide, that's a bigger market to like develop the business in.
I wonder what, Gav and I have had many discussions about this. We cite the massive reduction in funding for young designers as a big impact for us, because obviously
there's a knock-on effect.
Really shifted. Next generation come through. There was a real rise in digital print, which meant that I think the interest in screen printing really diminished, because it was so expensive in comparison, that because the funding wasn't there wasn't.
People were leaning into the digital versus doing the manual.
And
kind of actually, I mean, this is controversial, but like, would you say on the catwalks, does it make any difference from a distance or on a picture if it's done digitally or manually printing, like screen printing?
It's a controversial question.
Because I know I love screen printed fabrics more. So that's, for me, there is no like competition. I mean, they can work together. That's great as well, the combination of the two. But like, looking at it from like, obviously, like if you're on a tight budget and you're doing a catwalk collection and you need to get a print done, obviously you're going to go for the digital one because you're on a tight budget. But as well, but does it make a difference, like on a catwalk? Like, does that make a difference to like, for somebody that's maybe going to buy it, or I don't know, like the effect that you get visually, is that diminishing their piece? Do they not realize? Should they be spending their money on the print? I don't know, so many questions.
I think on face value, no, you can't tell. Like, a good digital print and a good screen print should look great, like regardless, if it's on the right fabric, the colors are nice and vivid, or whatever they're supposed to be, then
you can do a good one. There's probably a very big difference between a bad digital print and a good one as well.
And that I think is the actual crux. I mean, screen printing does allow you to do fluorescent colors, and it allows you to do gold and silver.
Like the metallics, definitely,
But I think if you're going down that route anyway, then you've sort of, what you're doing, so you're going to go there anyway. But what digital printing I think allows for that screen printing, there's too many processes in there that kind of stops, is I think that there are a lot more bad digital prints out there because it's very accessible and it's very quick and it's very affordable.
Yeah.
I'm sure many people now are going to say it's really expensive. In the grand scheme of things, it's not. It's really not.
Yeah. It's really not.
We're supposed to be paying, but
Yeah.
And I think I don't know. If I see one more reflect and repeat print, like, or photographic prints, it's just like there's no communication, there's nothing really interesting. And
so do you think that maybe the digital printing is restricting the experimentation side of things? Like, as a designer, maybe the designers are just pumping out stuff from their screens, like, versus like the physical experimentation side of things. Do you think that happens more with the screen printing aspect, or not, because they're not really physically doing it? Do you know what I mean? Like, for me, like, I just remember at university, like, when I would experiment with like those, physically experiment with the dye, physically experiment with the thing that the stuff, the binders and the things that take the fabric out, and I can't remember any words today, but like, kind of like experimentation is like such an important part of like creativity and coming up with new ideas, that maybe a screen printing, so maybe the digital is taking away from that experimentation, and therefore like stunting the creative nature of some prints. Too easy to just stick a picture on and print it out.
I think it's the time scale.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's not necessarily that you're physically doing it, that you're physically mixing the color and printing it, and because again, that kind of, I think that leads into that idea that a designer has to do everything.
Yeah.
And that's not physically possible.
No.
But I think the process of taking an image and manipulating it on, and only seeing it on screen, and then the idea that you receive the final piece, and there's no just sit and look at it and feel it and
drape it and hang it and play with it. Yeah.
And allowing for those extra processes in the middle to be like, you know what, I'm not feeling this.
Yeah. Maybe it needs to be larger, maybe I need to switch things around, the colors aren't quite right. And
and even if that is printed, like you were talking about Dior, like printing that on paper and looking at it and going, okay. And I think, and by no means do all designers who use digital print do this, but I think it really allows for those bad habits to happen.
Yeah, maybe that's it. Yeah, maybe you're right, that's the time scale of like not allowing that experimentation to happen and themselves. Just,
like, do I like this, or do I need to get this on the catwalk? Or in the shop, whatever it is.
Yeah. So I need to send it to the manufacturers to get made, so I need to just go with what I've done.
And how many times have you been in a store and, usually like a low budget kind of clothing store, and there's always that one print and you go, did they not realize that those two flowers are like,
Yeah. And when the pattern is reflected, it looks slightly like a female part. And like yeah.
Oh, guys, like, just
step back, have a look. I mean, if that's what you're going for, go for it, but have some conscious awareness.
was going to say, I am quite excited in some ways, because I think this lockdown is giving people a lot of time for reflection and a lot of time to slow down. And that's something that as a business we've been trying to do, to just like, it's okay, like,
yeah,
and read.
yeah. I think if you can come up with a way of like balancing and managing it in a different way so that you can have that creative time to allow for that for yourselves and to manage it in a different way. And I know that's really difficult because you don't necessarily know when the next job is coming in, but like to manage it, like, because that's how I feel like the fashion industry needs to reevaluate its processes and timescales and all those things. Definitely needs a reflecting on itself as an industry of like how it can change and how you can, because I'm sure that people lose their creativity because of the timescales.
And that's why they take so many drugs.
Yeah, very sad.
I think not quantifying people in terms of the output. Like, I think that we expect people to, there's almost like a competition. Oh, well, I work 16 hours a day and I get up at 6 a.m. and I've read 5 books and I've done this and this and this. And it's just like, chill out,
Yeah. And I do think as well, like, I don't know about you, but like I always felt like it was a bit of a competition in terms of when you were doing an internship, and it's like how long are you going to stay? And I'm like, but I'm not getting paid.
Exactly. I think, yeah. And that feeds into this idea
The
that
whole industry, yeah.
I'm working harder than you. I'm doing this better than you. It's like, you know what? I'm done. Maybe it's the age that we are.
Yeah, I do think it is an age thing, and I think it is an experience thing, and kind of coming to the realization of like, okay, so maybe that's not the right way to do things. Maybe the fashion industry is a little broken and it needs to kind of rejig itself so that the people that are coming through don't necessarily have the same feelings about it, or
Yeah.
to make it better for everyone, really.
I'm not, yeah, and I don't know what that vision is, and
No, I don't know what that is either. It's a complicated issue, I have to say.
Especially because everyone talks about, when you talk about fashion, it's like so many different levels, isn't it?
Yeah.
High street is not.
Yeah, the solution for one level, when I say level, I don't mean like better or worse. I mean, like, as you say, like high street or like designer or anything, like one level, a solution could be one thing, but then a solution for someone else is something different. And like, it's very like kind of knock-on effects and like all those different things. And yeah, and the way it is now is because of a certain thing, and like, time scales, and yeah, it's a complicated thing. But I do think it's also about customer expectations and what they want. I think also has a big piece to play in it, like educating people, and so them being educated in what they're buying and wanting certain things. Like, because if you're saying as a customer, I don't mind a $2 t-shirt from Primark, and that's what I'm willing to pay and buy. Yes, you're not the same customer as that's buying the designer things, I get that, but equally you're kind of perpetuating this time scale. You're perpetuating the beliefs that there's no value in fashion and all those things that are kind of detrimental to the industry's.
So I have a controversial question.
Okay.
The $2 t-shirt from Primark, is that the clothing industry, or is that fashion, or are they both the same thing?
What do you mean? Do you mean like, is that are they at fault, or is that what's your question?
Like, how would you pigeonhole it? Like, would you call it fashion? Would you call it,
I call it fast fashion, maybe. I wouldn't class it as fashion in the same way as like, because if you're going to look at it in that respect, it's not fashion as in catwalk fashion. It's not catwalk as in like designer pieces, because designer fashion comes from a creative place as such, whereas fast fashion is more like a distilled version where they've taken concepts and ideas from designers and distilled it down into like the most basic version that they can make, but have an essence of the concept.
Isn't it like a white t-shirt is just a white t-shirt? Like,
oh, okay. If you're just talking a white t-shirt without a print on, then yeah, it's just a white t-shirt. It's a basic, isn't it? It's like a thing. That's why people aren't putting the value in it. So it's just clothing then, I guess.
Which is interesting. And people don't value clothing, I guess.
But that's what I mean. Like there's like it doesn't seem to be the value. People don't value the skills that go into it. So like even a white t-shirt, there's a lot of skills that go into, you know, I can't sew as fast as those people that can sew that fast. Like, honest to God, it's amazing that they don't sew their fingers. But like,
sure industrial sewing machines are the reason I went into textiles.
Yeah, scary. Don't put your foot down too far.
Yeah, I spent more time unpicking than I did.
Okay. Note to self for everyone: an unpicker is like an essential piece of equipment.
It's like an eraser.
Yeah. Do you know what? My dad's really good at unpicking. So, another note to self: if you know someone that's handy with an unpicker. Yeah. So I don't know. I don't class it as a fashion, a white t-shirt, but equally I don't think that doesn't mean there's no value in it. There's still value in a white t-shirt. You know, the skills and the things that have gone into it are still valued. They should be valued. Like,
because I wonder like the argument that fast fashion is, when people talk about fast fashion and it's detriment to the environment and I think to people's well-being, there's a disconnect, I think.
Yeah.
Fashion, I think it
implicates the whole industry.
Yeah. And actually, I think anything above kind of high street level isn't producing enough to be that.
No, and people aren't chucking those things away. So yeah, it's right. Yeah.
Dressed. You're not throwing that away.
No, and you're keeping it because it's kind of like a memory. It's got a thing about it, isn't it? You know, you're going to pass that on to your grandkids.
No, I'm just convinced that I will lose enough weight to fit in it again. Like,
yes. But yeah, I agree. Like, yeah, you can't class the two things in the same bracket, but maybe people do. But then I do think there are still problems with, it's not the same problems, but there's definitely problems still with that kind of level of the market, like in terms of like the pace and the way it is structured. I still think, you know, it has its own issues, shall we say.
yes.
If you had to give a piece of advice to yourself when you were younger, before you went to university maybe, or after you finished university, whenever, what would the piece of advice would you give to yourself?
That's a good question. I guess it's really not as important as you think it is.
Yeah.
I think that's the main thing. Of
things that will seem like worse than when you're that, like when you haven't had all that experience.
Yeah. I mean, I've met some incredibly interesting characters through this business, both interesting in the best possible way and interesting in the let's get the Darwin Awards kind of way. And yeah, I think follow your instinct, it's usually right.
Yeah.
And business is about people. I think that's one thing that I didn't realize to begin with. And something that Gavin and I have talked about a lot more recently. Because your first point of contact is talking to someone. It's talking to a client, like, tell me your project. And the way that they describe it and whether you connect with them or you don't is actually a really good indicator for that working relationship. And I think there are many times that I've said yes to a project and my insides are going,
just screaming, yeah.
They're going to be a nightmare. And lo and behold, yeah. And I think that comes with confidence a lot. And, you know,
an experience of like doing it and going, okay.
Yeah.
And kind of also like being able to like establish your instincts, like, because everyone has it, but like kind of that like being able to tap into it, like to know what that means when your body's doing that, like, because I know for myself, like every point in every project I've ever done, there's always a point where I freak the frick out, and there's always this like a night of tears, a night of like throwing the towel out the window, like, yeah, everything's just terrible, I'm not going to do this anymore, and then I sort everything out, everything then sorts itself out and everything's fine, but there's always that point of like, no. But now I know that's coming, I know I'm going to do that, and I know myself, so I know that, okay, I'm going to have that point, just waiting for that to happen, but I know it's going to be okay on the other side.
Yeah, just need to get through it.
Yeah, everything will be fine. So yeah, for me that's kind of knowing myself, and obviously instinct is slightly different, but like kind of that the understanding of what your body's trying to tell you.
There's something very empowering, I think, with that knowledge. Just generally, I think knowing that, knowing that you're going to freak out at a certain point, or you're going to have a crisis of confidence, or that you know that there are certain personality types that you just cannot work with, for example, and if you know that, then you can act on it rather than finding yourself in a situation where you don't know what to do. And
so when you were making those mistakes in the first instance, I'm guessing it was like I'm just going to take it for the money, like kind of like you just want the money kind of, so I'm just going to go with the doing it kind of.
Some of them, yes, definitely.
And then you realized it wasn't worth it.
and it ended up not being financially worth it because we had to redo it several times, or the emotional drain wasn't worth it. Yeah, there's some horror stories.
I'm sure there are. We'll put them in the bloopers.
Some of them are still like, some of the companies are still going. Like,
okay, we won't talk about it.
How, I have no idea, but anyway, there's but sometimes also for pride. I think when we got sort of developed a reputation for being able to solve any sort of textile related problem, or do things very quickly, and I think there's a matter of pride there.
Yeah,
I can do this. Oh no, I can't.
Yeah, and being able to say no, that's a really difficult thing to say.
And I'm always shocked, actually. I had a phone call very recently from a gentleman who, we don't do any fabric dyeing anymore. small piece anyway. And a gentleman phoned up and he was very insistent that we were going to dye his 2 meters of fabric. But the machinery doesn't allow for that. And he was like, no, you will do it. Because Italy has shut down and this is a very important project. And I said, well, I'm very sorry, but the pandemic, there's not a lot I can do.
Get a Dylon box.
So even when you say no.
Yes. Well, yeah, I guess that goes back to the people don't have a comprehension of how things work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think having taken on that job, it would have probably been a bit of a nightmare.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think if you were first starting out, you probably would have taken it and made it happen.
Yeah. And I guess you do learn a lot from those experiences of like, I just need to make it work. But when you think of, or I don't know, maybe it's the fact that I feel now I have a lot more to lose. So not getting 8 hours sleep or not having an evening to spend to do my what I want to do is more detrimental to, I don't know, maybe at the age of like 25 or whatever it was, forging my company and like
was the most important thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because like, yeah, maybe I was the same, but I don't know, because equally I was really hating things for some reason. Like I didn't understand what it was I was hating. Like I really hated things about fashion. I was really like, I really wanted things to work, and I was working really hard at fashion, and again at university, kind of the same thing. I was like working so hard, spending every hour doing fashion because that's what I wanted to do, but equally being really angry about something and not knowing what it was. And it's because I wasn't doing the balance. There was no balance. It was like all or nothing. It was kind of like that, not realizing that you need the other side. You need to be able to step back, because that makes you actually a better creative.
Yeah, I get it. Like with the digital printing, I suppose. I know it's a really stupid kind of thing, but like,
no, but it makes sense.
Just churning it out doesn't, the quantity doesn't make the consideration, and the slow isn't bad.
No, it isn't. And I wish that's for me, like if I was going to say one thing that I wish I could tell myself at university is like, take a night off. You'll be better tomorrow. You'll be better. You're so better. You're like, everything will make more sense. Everything will like come together. Just relax.
There are so many times that I would go home at 11 o'clock at night for, dyeing this piece of fabric again and again and again to make it so perfect. And for what?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're the only person that's gonna know. On that sad note.
But I'm really good at it now.
Yeah, it's fine. We're very cool. Don't anyone worry. No straight jackets needed here. Thank you so much for joining me today, Mika. It's been so really lovely chatting with you.
Thank you. I've had so much fun. We should do this.